Hello guys, welcome to Core Runner YouTube channel. In today's video, we will see about how to solve today's daily challenge and daily test. So first we see how to solve daily challenge question. So in today's daily challenge, they given a 4 integer. That 4 integer values must be 1, 2 and 10 power 8 range only. So they asked us to if we can separate this 4 integer into 2 equal groups. Resultant group will be if we add the element in the first group, it gives some value. Then if we add element in the second group, it also gives some value. If we compare both some value, it must be equal. If it's equal, then we can able to split up the given 4 input into 2 equal groups. Then we need to print S as a value. If we did not able to split the given 4 input into 2 equal groups, we need to print no as the output. Before moving to code, I explain how we can able to solve it logically. So for that, I take first test case as a input. The first test will be 1, 7, 11 and 5. So if we split the given 4 into 2 groups, there is totally 3 possibility. The first possibility is the first group contain one element and the second group may contain 3 elements, or the first group may contain 2 elements and the second group also contain 2 elements, or the first group contain 3 elements and the second group may contain 1 element. So if we see here, this one and this one is equal, so we eliminate 1 from it. So now we have totally 2 possibilities to split the group. So we can also eliminate the second group. We only focus on first group. First we need to add all the input. So if we add these values, we get 24. So we know if we after splitting the given 4 integer into 2 equal groups, we definitely know the first group also contain half of the value and the second group contain half of the value. So for the first group, half of the value is going to be, if we after 24, it gives 12 as a value. So we definitely know the first group contain 12 value only. So the 12 is exactly one element or maybe a sum of 2 elements. So we need to choose if we need to check if the one element is exist in our input array, or if the sum of 2 element is exists in our input array. So for this first test case will be the sum of 2 element is equal to the 12. That 2 elements is nothing but it can be 1 and 11 or 7 and 5. So if we add like that, we get 12 as an output. So in same as we can also consider a custom test case as 1, 8, 10 and 1. So if we add all the value, we get 20. So if we half the 20 value, we get 10. So if we need to check if the 10 is inside the group, so yes, exactly our half the value is in the given input list. So in this test case, the possibility is going to be first only one element only. So we can able to split it. So we can also check for the test case 2. So the for test case value will be 7, 3, 2 and 5. So if we sum all these values, we get here we 10 and here it's going to be 17. So 17. We cannot divide a odd number into 2 equal parts. So we immediately return no as a output. So this is the logic behind my code. So in this set of lines, I get the input from user, and also I sum all the input value and store it in a sum variable. If the sum variable is going to be a odd value, we cannot split the value. So I immediately return no as a output, and I terminate the program execution by return 0. And in this line, of the sum value and store the half of the value in the half variable. And for I use for loop to check if the only one element is perfectly matched for this half value. So do not consider this line, this line, this line, this line. So this code is work for if only one element is exists in groups. So if I minus any value from array to the half of the value, it gives 0, then we know one of the group contain only one element. So for the two element, I use a set to store all the remaining values in the set, and I check if the next element in the array is in the set. If it is in the set, we found there are two sum as a value. So for I can clearly explain here. So for this we can consider a first test case 1, 7 and 11 and 5. So initially our set will be going to be empty one. So for first iteration, our element going to be 1, and I check if 1 is in the set. Is given no. For this the sum and after value it will be 12. So if I 12 minus 1, it give 11 as input. So I push 11 into the set, and I iterate for next element, and I check if 7 is exist in the set. No. So I 7 minus 12, it will be 5. So I push 5 value in the set. So after it going to be 11. So I check if 11 is in our set. Yes, it will be there. So for if I found it, immediately return yes, and I terminate the program by return 0. So our first test case will be satisfied here. So okay. So if we cannot able to found the one element that exactly match our half value, or the two element that also did not match our half value, we are going to return no as the output. So that's all about today's daily challenge. Now we analyze the time complexity of the code. So for this for loop, the time complexity will be O of n, and also for this for loop, the time complexity will be O of n. If we submit, we can get 2 O of 2n. So we can simply consider 2n will be O of n only. So after we can analyze the space complexity of code will be. So I use the array to store the input value, and I also use the set to store the all the remaining value for each iteration. So this also be a O of n. The total space complexity of our code will be O of 2n only. For the input value, we do not need to consider the space complexity. We only consider about the additional space complexity that is going to be our set. So for this, that space complexity is O of n only. So the space complexity of this code will be O of n. So that's all about today's daily challenge. Now we move to daily test solution. So this is our daily test question. Given a two integer x and y. So the y value is definitely be smaller than x. The value is definitely smaller than 10 power minus 5. So what they asking about is we need to find all factor for 100. So all factor for 100 will be here. So after we check if each factor of 100 is divisible by the y value. If it is divisible by y value, we need to return those output, those values. We need to print those values. If there is no factor that satisfies divided by y value, we need to print -1 as output. So this is the logic. So now we see about the code. So in this line I get the input from the user x and y value. So after that I check if x is perfectly divisible by y, then there should be at most one factor in our output we need to print. If it does not perfectly divisible by so then we know there is no factor is we going to be print. So I directly print -1 as output, and I stopped our whole code execution. So and if its condition does not satisfy, we have at least one factor to print as a output. So for that I use for loop to check each factor. So our for loop iteration start from y value, and our iteration is going up to y value, and I use step value as I plus equal to y, and I check if x is perfectly divisible by I. If it is perfectly divisible by I, then to find one factor that is perfectly divisible by our y value. So I printed that value as a output. So that's all about today's daily test. So now we're going to analyze the time complexity and space complexity of today's code. So for if our code ends here, and our time complexity will be O of 1, and the space complexity also will be O of 1 only. If the condition does not satisfy, our for loop going to iterate up to x divided by y value, and the space complexity will also be O of 1, because we in this solution we did not store any value, so that space complexity for this solution is going to be O of 1 only. So that's all about today's daily test. So thanks for watching. Bye.